Hello. Hello,
Hello.
Rebecca.
Oh, it's very formal today.
Yes.
I like
You
that.
can't be formal with the name Kelly, can you?
Well, we could call you Mrs. Reed.
Yes.
There we go. That's
Okay.
your formal side. Hello, Mrs.
Yeah.
Reed.
Hello, Rebecca. And it sounds like you're my governess or something. Bridgerton, have you watched the new series?
Watched it yet? Have you watched it?
Yeah. Watch it
Have you?
all today, and then the second release on Thursday, I watched all four. And Matt and Harry came home and I was crying. And they were like, why do you
Oh,
do this to yourself? And I was like, oh, just over myself. But Benedict, he needs
I
to sort
know.
himself out, doesn't he? It's all
No.
very well for him, isn't it? Going off, being a rake and doing
Being awake,
whatever.
all that
Poor
upstairs
Sophie.
shenanigan,
Yeah,
downstairs. Wow,
yeah,
not for
she's got to do
lucky.
sewing, she's got to get up at 5, make some
She's got to do the
fires.
halves. Yeah.
Yeah, crafts, yeah, she's got to so, yeah, I do love it.
Interesting.
It's such a guilty pleasure, but
Oh, I
I
love
can't.
it. So I've waited until this point because I didn't want to do, because I think I did that last time. Was it 2 years ago it came out? I think it
Yeah,
was. Yeah. And it was split into two again, wasn't it? And I think I was on my way back or to New York and I got really annoyed with myself because there was a lady, because I stood up and I could see her screen and she downloaded it so she could watch it. But I stopped. I was like going, I'm not going to watch it. I'm going to wait until I get home because I'm like, I could have sat on the entire flight and watched the entire thing. I was just like so annoyed with myself.
yeah, that was you messed up there. That was
But I
definitely
can't.
something you
I
could've done.
I cannot wait. If you're all loving it, then you sobbed. Then maybe I'll do it this afternoon. Maybe I'll just do a marathon all the way through.
Yeah, and because I've been waiting for 2 years and, it's gonna be Benedict and stuff, yeah, but it
Yeah.
was yeah. I mean, it is it is what it is. It's not in any way something that you get your history from, but I
No.
love all the costumes, all the
Yeah.
romance and stuff. I love Violet, I love her. I
Yeah.
love yeah, but Anthony, my only problem is Anthony's only in it for, like, 1, maybe 2 episodes and not even properly. I love him
Well,
so
to be
much.
honest, I didn't even think he would be in it. So that's a bit more of a bonus then. But yeah, and hasn't no spoilers, but hasn't they've got a baby now or something, haven't they? Is
Yeah,
that yeah,
but
yeah,
we
yeah.
knew yeah, we know that because yeah,
You
they've
know that
been
already?
married a couple of years 'cause, that was the other thing, Penelope and Colin, you see in the first episode their baby, their little ginger baby called Elliot, I think, and then I think you see him maybe once more and then you never see him again in the whole the whole thing,
Well,
and I love the fact that you see a lot more of Varley because she's brilliant. In fact, I'm wearing Varley colours. I love her, she's so funny. Yeah. So, yes, it's Bridgerton, it's
yeah,
what it is. So,
yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, get yourself sorted out.
I will, I will, I will. But anyway, I will do
If
that.
not,
I'll do that this afternoon. But what should we talk about today, Kelly? Mrs.
let's
Reed?
talk about history is in genealogy and family tree stuff. I've been on the genealogy family history show, which was amazing.
Nice.
So we could talk about that. And then you can talk about your dramas with your
Well,
granny. Granny
yes.
or nanny? Grandma?
Well, because I never met her, I don't know what we would have called her.
Yeah.
Nan, maybe? That's what we called the other one, but maybe we would have had to call her something different. 'Cause you can't have 2 Nans, can you? Or can you? Don't know. But, yes, so I will update you on what I found out about that
Yes.
through
That's
Family
very
Tree.
exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you can't beat it. I've been doing well, I mean, I do my family tree whenever I can, and I did get a bit of a breakthrough. So I've now found my 10 times great grandparents through my dad's side,
Really?
and they've got the son. It's weird. So I've got a 4 times great granddad, and he's called Marwood, first name, Tillman
Marwood.
Hounslow.
Oh, hang on, say that again.
Marwood,
Yeah,
M-A-R
yeah. Okay.
Marwood Tillman Hounsell. Tillman is his mum's maiden name,
Yeah.
but when I've gone back through, there are loads of uncles and stuff, and they're all called Marwood and Tillman. So that's a funny name because 'cause I've never heard of that as a name,
Right, I
but
haven't.
usually it's names like that are usually someone's maiden name, but I haven't found the original Marwood. I
Yeah.
keep going back, there's more Marwoods,
Oh,
and they're
okay.
all from around Devon from Musbury, which I think is a Dorset Devon border, because I think
Okay.
depending when you look, sometimes it's Dorset and sometimes it's classed as Devon.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, so that's quite exciting.
That is
And
exciting.
yeah, I found a cousin, like a 9 times cousin,
Yeah, yeah.
and he was mayor of Lyme Regis in 1701. Yeah, he's got a
Interesting.
Wikipedia page related. Yeah, yeah. How cool is that?
That is very cool, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
And did they do anything exciting during their tenure as mayor?
I don't think so. But he died on tour, where, on they don't call it progress. What did they call it? But there was a special name for it. But he actually died when he was in Cornwall doing like the summer progress of being an MP and
Was you
visiting places.
okay?
He died. So, yeah. And it is why I see this often. I don't know if you noticed this, but he died when he was like 50-ish, and his wife was a bit younger than him. So she's in her like mid-40s, so sort of my age now. And then she lived until she was like 90 odd. So she was widowed for like 50 years.
She didn't remarry.
And you just think, oh, did you do that because sometimes widowed women had a better
Life.
um being independent, didn't they? Especially because they'd had children, so she'd done her research. So I often think about that, and you think 50 years, that's a long time. And then you think, did she have like a bit on the side or
Yeah. Gardener.
a gardener? Yeah.
Oh, where that came.
I'd a deep fantasy maybe. Have you got
Well,
a gardener?
no. Good for husband.
There you are. Okay.
There you are then.
Want to hear about your weird role plays? No. Yeah. Can you imagine though being widowed for that long? And that
Well,
happens often.
I can't remember the name of that book I talked about before. I can't remember what her name was. The one I recommended, it was the diaries, her diaries.
Oh,
And she was
yes.
like, and for 30 years, she contested the will because she was the heir and they wouldn't let that happen. So she had 30 years trying to contest it, finally won it. And then still, I don't think she did. Oh no, she did marry again, but I think they live separate lives. So yeah, so you're right. We could, marry again and no one wants this. So back in
Well,
those
if you were left with some sort of means, I guess you could call
yeah.
the shots a lot
Yeah.
more. But I've been looking at quite a lot of wills and probate documents and stuff. And Ancestry have got this new feature where you can transcribe stuff. It's not always accurate and it doesn't work for everything. It's obviously, as I is getting better,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
will become better and better. And a lot of the sort of family websites are doing it, especially when they're written in Latin.
Mm.
I mean, the first sort of paragraph is all about leaving your body in the hands of God and your shackles and all of that. And so you have to go through all of that to then get to the bit. But they always, if their daughters are married,
Mm.
they always refer to their daughters as the wife of someone. So they never name their daughters. So that's annoying and
Really
rude.
annoying.
And often the wife is left at the bottom. It's like, oh yeah, my wife can live in my house and she
Thanks.
can live in the house until she dies. And you're like, "Oh, great, thanks. I'm
See
so
that,
glad."
and that's probably why they never marry again because they're just like, oh, I'm finally free from this ridiculous. Sorry, I'm just fiddling with my light now. Yeah, finally free from it. I can do what I want,
Yeah,
and if I've got means, fuck it, I would.
yeah. I think sometimes didn't people put in, like, codicil saying, "Well, my wife she can use my house, but if she marries again,
Yes,
she's on her
that's
own."
true. Yeah,
You're like, "What? She gave you 9 children. Sort yourself out."
yeah,
I think that's I mean, sometimes family history is guesswork or you're putting together narratives and you have to be careful of that. You
yeah,
can
yeah,
add narratives and assumptions about things, but sometimes there are things that you're like, well, I wonder why that happened or why they
yeah.
did that. And this Marwood Tillman, my first one I found, the 4 times great granddad, he was the one who's married to my 4 times great grand, who was called Mary Mawson, and I had massive troubles trying to find her back to her parents. And it was a spelling. It was ended up
Mm.
being M. SON, and there were lots of bastardy bonds because her mum seemed to have children and not be married, but with different people. And it
Right.
was through the wills and probates that I was able to piece together
And
who
it's
her
all
father was.
yeah, yeah.
But she ended up at Dorchester prison for stealing woolen stockings. But again, in the Magistrate Assizes books that's available,
Yeah.
it says the wife of Harwood Tillman, and because he's got an unusual name, it was easy. So it doesn't even name her. It doesn't even say Mary. It just says the
No.
wife of Harwood Tillman Hounsell was sentenced to 12 months hard labour for stealing some woolen mittens, stockings.
But
So
isn't
she's
it?
not even named
Not even,
in the
yeah.
court
I
book.
mean, we'll go on to my granny, in a bit, but it's funny because when I read out some of the reports that I found, but again, it's like kind of she lived with her brother, and it says that, and you're like, why don't you just say she lived at the address she lived
Yeah.
at? You didn't have to make the association that she lived with her brother. Do you know what I mean? Like, what purpose is that adding to the story? Do you know what I mean? I just think it's just so still back in the 1970s, they were still kind of like almost doing the same sort of thing, but like a little bit less. But yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, well, a lot of probate records, when you go back, I mean, they don't name who things are left to from about maybe the 50s onwards, 1950s onwards. But
Okay.
before that, and any woman that is left anything, it's always the husband, the wife of so and so. And I know that it happened, but I think, I don't know, I guess I still find it shocking. I've been looking at those documents for years and years and years, and I still find it mad and ridiculous. And
Yeah. 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 So tell
yeah,
us
but
about
then,
this course that you went on then.
oh yeah,
What's
so
that?
so it's the family show. They do it online every year, and it's in conjunction with the genealogists mainly, and they have. It was brilliant. So I got my ticket, and then I joined on the day at 10 a.m. and they had they had the forum set up online. So they had live talks that you went in, and then they had an ask the panel. So they actually had people you could actually go in and make an appointment with as such. I missed the boat on
Okay.
that. I was a bit rubbish. I didn't really understand how it worked, but you could go in and ask about specific questions, and they had like people who were particularly good with knowing about medals or
Yes.
uniforms or probate or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I wrote his name down. I didn't. But they had one of the main guys who does a lot of tutorials and stuff, which you can find on the genealogist. Just talking, I mean, you had the basic stuff, so I was trying to look at lots of different things. But they were really interesting because these are people whose job it is to do family history, but they're so passionate about it. And they obviously have a wealth of experience. And they were talking a lot about digitizing. So what I guess I didn't really realize is that all these big names, so the genealogist, family search, find my past, uh, ancestry, which I've always used, they obviously are vying for all the records and having them to
Mm.
display. But I also think there's starting to be deals of exclusivity. So I know the genealogist now has quite a few records that are exclusive only to them. Obviously, it's
So if
becoming,
I was to search on Ancestry, what you're saying is there's potential that there would be documents that I can't see on Ancestry, but I could only see on Genealogist.
yeah. I think so. And unless you have a full paying for all of them, it would
Yeah, yeah,
probably be
yeah.
hard to know. But I know that the genealogists have exclusive records that you can search through. Especially with where it comes to non-conformist records, so people who were not Christian, basically, they tend. I
Okay.
mean, the other sites do, but not to the same extent. And I'm having trouble. I have a lot of my roots based in Devon, but not all of the websites have Devon records. So I need to check and see if the genealogy.
See.
So I'm in a dilemma, Becky. Do I cut ties with Ancestry, which I have the All
Yeah.
Sing Nor Dancing, and go to the cheaper and, from what I can see, the more records of the genealogists, which will involve me then exporting my whole tree over? I'm a bit of a, I don't know what to do, so I'm trying to.
Can you export your tree and plonk it in? You can.
You can, and also it's things like their search engine. So Ancestry have got a new thing lately, which is good, where you can actually put brackets of years. So you search between this year and this year, but it doesn't seem to work. Whereas the genealogist search engine seems to be a lot more grown
Does it?
up. And you can search a lot better. So I need to go in and just have a look and see what is going to suit me better, because I've got
Yeah.
to a state now where it might be beneficial for me to go and find
Have you
somewhere.
trialed the genealogist? Have you trialed that?
No, that's a good idea. I
Maybe
probably could
trial
do
it
that.
and see,
When I've
'cause
got
I'm
when I yeah, when I know I've got like a weekend or something, she says.
yeah,
When I know I've got some time, maybe do that and see. But there is something that's like, because Ancestry's always been brilliant. I get all the newspapers with that,
I know,
and
I
I
was
get
just
the
about to ask about
history.
that. Yeah.
So I
So
get
what
I
you
sometimes
get
go with
in genealogists then, what would you get then? Do you get access to all of that sort of stuff as well? Because you pay
a lot.
extra for that in your membership on Ancestry, don't you?
Yeah, but there is like I got like a offer as well because I went to this family show.
Yeah.
So I'm now trying to think, is it going to be better if I transfer it over? So I don't know. I feel a bit disloyal, but I'm just wondering. But then I could keep my Ancestry one and then just have the lowest
Membership, yeah.
membership and then go to I don't know. Feel like I'm cheating on someone.
Well,
So
I think you should just trial it. But you did mention there was about 5 of them you just mentioned, like Find My Past and the others. So what about those? Have you trialed any of those other ones as well or not?
I've done a few things and I've got a few different accounts because there are some, I mean, when you look at records, you often will compare different records, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of free record things. So there's free reg, all one word, and that's very good for sometimes if you're not sure on, say someone's got, you've got like Marwood Hounslow and
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can search the how many Marwood Hounslows, but you could just search a Hounslow and you could search per area
Yes.
and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
you can
yeah.
narrow down and it does 100-mile search radius of that area. It won't have all of them. Sometimes if you Google a parish record that you would like to find, sometimes some wonderful person has transcribed it and put it on some kind of website or document and shared it.
Yeah.
So that's why I've always been so lucky with all my Wedmore relatives, because there's a guy called Tutton who actually transcribed like so much stuff. So I can go on there. Sometimes you have to cross reference because you can't, and I always say, you can't trust other people's trees
No.
if they haven't got the evidence that backs it up.
Yeah.
And you can't assume just because there's not a record there means that there isn't
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that's my conundrum. Sorry if that's boring for everyone. But I did find out. So this guy who was talking in the first one, and I will put his name on because he was brilliant. He was talking about, obviously different records and stuff, but he was talking about, have you heard of this?
Never heard of fleet marriages.
So I find this absolutely astonishing. Back in, so I've got notes here, so to make sure that I do it. So the Marriage Act of 1753 was
Yeah.
brought in, and it was brought in because to make sure that like people were getting married properly. And before then, a lot of people would often be married, what we call sort of common law wives and husbands.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
A lot of people used to be like, "Do you want to marry me? Yes. Do you want to marry me? Yeah. Oh, we're married." You might have to do it in front of the witness, but basically that was as much of a bond and was passed. So it was sort of to sort of legalize everything and make sure it was all properly done and with proper records. But before then, obviously there were people getting married in all sorts of different ways. And
Yeah,
obviously the
yeah.
main way we can see marriage records are through the parish records. So that's assuming everyone is a Christian marrying in church with
Yeah, yeah.
banns and everything. So the Fleet prison in London was, because it was a prison, it's counted as outside the church's jurisdiction.
Right.
So before the Marriage Act, so in like the mid sort of 1600s, people were people in prison were getting married in prison because you didn't need to have banns. You didn't necessarily need any of the rules or permission. So if you were under 21, you didn't need your parents' permission. It didn't matter what age you were, what religion you were, all the rest of it. And a lot of
Yeah.
the prison guards were sort of being bribed in order to make it happen. So they then sort of the authorities then got wind of it and sort of banned that happening, but it was still happening. But the area just outside of Fleet Prison was sort of seen as basically outside of the church's jurisdiction. A lot of people lived there who were sort of the untouchables of society. So you had a lot of renegade priests and vicars and whatever
Right.
clergymen
Yeah.
there. So it was a cheap place that you could go and get married by a clergyman. So for between 1667 and 1754, so not quite 100 years, so many people were going and getting married in this sort of area because you didn't need to have your banns read, you didn't need anyone's permission, and they obviously didn't check ID or anything like that. And it was a cheap way to get married. And you could come from anywhere, you didn't have to be from around there. So people were traveling, and they reckon that in between that period I just mentioned, 800,000 marriages in England were done by these fleet marriages. That's 15% of the population. And that is over half of the population of London itself in that time. I was like, what? How do I not know that? That's completely mad.
And that's just for that area, 800,000
Yeah, so
marriages.
people were coming. So if you couldn't afford to get married and you were in Somerset,
You could travel to
or you
there.
couldn't get your girlfriend's dad's permission because you were 18,
Yeah,
you would
yeah.
then go up to Fleet, have a quickie marriage, and then job done. But they do have records of people as young as 12 getting married because there was no sort of anybody sort of guiding. So again, this
Yeah.
Marriage Act came in to sort of be like, right, let's stop all the silliness and let's get some regulations going.
So the
But it
Marriage Act
also,
stopped fleet marriages.
yes, so there were other places, so the King's Bench Prison and the Mint and the Mayfair Chapel, and apparently royal people got married in these places because you didn't need all these
Right.
different things.
Yeah.
So there was sort of a few other places, and again, the genealogist guy was saying we have access to a lot of these records. They're being transcribed and put on
Oh,
our record base.
interesting.
You can see them, and I was like, oh, how have I never heard of that? So it might be that, especially when the population, especially when all the changes in religion were happening in like
Yeah.
this 60s, we were very Protestant by then, but not
Yeah.
everybody was. And obviously people marrying into religion and into race and
Mm.
family members and all sorts of reasons would just go and be
Mm.
like, find a naughty clergy boy who's in trouble and run away to live in Fleet and he'll marry you for a tuppence, or I
That
don't know if
is
that was the law or not then.
very interesting,
So
isn't
I
it?
was like, I would love to know so much more about that. So
Yeah. Well,
that is
maybe
really,
you should come back, go and investigate and come back with it, because I'd be interested. Love to know whether or not any of your family ever got married at a fleet marriage
yeah, probably
ceremony.
not. They
That
never
would be
said
interesting.
that, or Devon. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Too far.
it's the fact that it came from a need, people getting married. I mean, why would you want to get married when you're in prison? But I
I
guess it
know.
depends how long you're in. But then in Fleet Prison, didn't you sometimes go in with like your whole family? If you were a
Yeah, maybe.
widowed father and
Yeah.
you had no one, your kids, wouldn't they just come in with you?
Yeah.
And you didn't have, I'm thinking of like Newgate and stuff. If
Yeah.
you had to feed yourself. So you didn't go to prison and then get fed. You might have a bed or whatever, but basically you had to have stuff
Yeah.
brought in for you. So
Yeah. Interesting. I
so
like.
that's my,
Well, it's that's a new one for me as well. I didn't know that about
yeah,
that. Know them.
no,
Never heard of them.
I
Yeah.
absolutely loved hearing about that. I just find it was really, really
But it
interesting.
makes sense now, though, doesn't it? Yeah, definitely
Yeah,
makes sense. Right, of course there would be,
yeah.
something like that.
I
Mm,
mean, my
interesting.
family are fairly straightforward in I haven't really come from anywhere else. I've got a few Catholics on one side, but really I
Yeah,
haven't got any other religions. We're all quite bog standard
yeah,
white English
yeah,
farmers.
yeah,
There's not really, I mean, we've got the odd story that's a bit exciting, but we don't, we've sort of stayed the same for a long
yeah,
time. But it's meant that I want to go back through things that I've got stuck on because all these brick walls that you end up having, you go to
Yeah,
another
yeah.
area of your tree instead. There might be reason. It might be someone did get married at Fleet, but I would be interested just to look at those records anyway and see what they're
Yeah.
like. So
Yeah, definitely.
yeah,
Yeah,
so I thought it was a pretty cool thing to share.
that is
Yeah,
cool.
but tell us about your granny though,
Well,
because you gave us part of your story before, and we need sort of a follow up.
yeah. Well, I think I told everyone about the divorce or the potential for divorce, didn't I? And looking out of the bathroom window and trying to get a petition for the divorce that didn't happen. The divorce did happen between my maternal grandmother and grandfather eventually, but there's always been this thing. Because when I was born, my grandmother died the month before I was born, so I never got a chance to meet her. It's never really spoken about within our family at all. Don't talk about things like that, and it never has been.
This is
It was never kind.
your mum's,
This is
is
my
that right? Your
mum's
mum?
mum, yes.
Yeah.
And so yeah, never been spoken about, and that's kind of fine. And whenever questions have been asked, it's always been very vague, and nothing's come of it, and people can't really remember, or yeah,
Don't want to
just
remember.
there's just no one talks about it, and that's it. And you're like, right, well, kind of like, slightly odd. If you're going to not talk about it, that's going to definitely make me want to be interested in it, because that's the kind of person I am.
Mm.
So there was a point, not too long ago, about like 10 years ago or so, where we had to look at it was a medical issue, and we needed to know cause of death of our grandparents, because it was to figure out whether something was hereditary or not, type thing. So we got a copy of the death certificate of my grandmother, just to see. Oh, and my grandfather, because of course I didn't meet him either. They did get divorced, and he wasn't on the scene, and so yeah. Anyway, medical issue was not hereditary. We found the death certificate, and the death certificate cause of death was, I've got it here, drowning, open verdict. That's what it said. You're like, drowning, open verdict. So of course I'm already like, what does that mean? Like,
Yeah, that's
you know,
that just opens a
it's a
whole
bit
new
like,
can of
it's
worms, doesn't
vague.
it?
It's vague. So then when the questions asked, oh yeah, what happened? La la la. No one was answering the questions, or you get different like one was like, oh yeah, she fell and hit her head and died. Well, that's nothing to do with drowning then, and you're just like, okay. And then another one was like, yeah, she drowned, and then that was it. And then you're just like, okay, like clearly no one wants to talk about it. So I'm like, right, well, I'm going to find out myself then. So, so, uh,
So what, how old was she when she died?
so, wow, let me come to that. Yeah. So
Oh,
hang on, let
oh,
me find this. So
you're gonna be
she,
quiet now.
again,
I'm just gonna be quiet now, and I'll let you.
oh, no, no,
I'll
no,
stop
no,
asking.
no, no, ask away. No. So, in fairness, you were the one who helped me first off, because of your ancestry access, and because you have like the next level. So you've got all the access to the newspaper reports and stuff like that. So you found for me one of the things, which was the announcement, which was on the 13th of August in 1973. And it said, and it basically just says, "Woman found dead on beach." That's the title. You're like, oh gosh, they were like like a local newspaper, it used to come out every day, didn't it? It was the Evening Post, I think it was. And it just basically said that she was I won't say her name, was found dead on the beach at Green Hill in Weymouth. And it basically just said, happened yesterday. And then it said, was divorced, lived in, and the crime is not suspected, sort of thing. So it was in the Evening Post on the 13th of August, and basically a small report saying woman found dead on beach, and it was just basically the facts of that. She was 62, and she was found dead on the beach in Weymouth, and it just very factual. Basically, she was divorced, she lived here, and she was found dead, and crime is not suspected. And you're like, all right, okay, well that's interesting, but not
But
enough, sort of
that's
thing.
so open-ended, isn't it? That could be,
It could be
yeah.
anything, yeah. But obviously, you have a narrative in your head of like, well, what possibly could that be? Because you do. But then I could see on the death certificate that, who had done the coroner's report, because they named them. So I was just like, you know what, I'm going to write to Dorset coroner's office and see what I can glean from them, because you never know.
Yeah.
And they first came back and they said, "Oh, we don't think we can find your thing. Can you give me more information?" And I was just like laughing, because I was like, "Well, I'm coming for you for information, so I can't give you any more information that I don't have. But thanks." And I was just like, "Well, this is the, the person who was the coroner." And obviously I googled it and trying to find it myself, but you obviously can't have access to those records. And I believe the process is, it's not open access to anyone, to the public, but if you are a close relative, you are able to kind of, like, sometimes for a fee, if they've got the information, they will provide you with the information if there's a justified kind of cause for it, and you are, as you say, a close relative. So I had sent, like, part of, like, a little snapshot of the family tree to show them how we were related, and blah blah blah, and that explained that we didn't have any of the answers, and would they be able to help us. Anyway, they came back, and they did come back, and they actually were very good, and they sort of, like, basically said, "This is all we've got, this is what we've been able to find," because they did say in the first instance that they didn't think they would be able to find anything, but they did. And they came back with what was a news report. So I printed it out, but then also the handwritten notes of the actual coroner's kind of handwritten notes. So they'd obviously saved that, and it was in yeah. But yeah, so basically it was an open verdict of my grandmother, but they had said that basically there was certain suspicion about she may have drowned herself deliberately, because she was worried about a medical issue that she had, and I think she had thought the medical issue was worse than it actually was, and she had got herself into a bit of a funk about it, and she apparently was depressed about it, and she was on antidepressants, and it got to a point, I think, where she wouldn't go out in the day because she felt people were looking at her because of this issue. But actually she had been seen by the doctor, and she had been seen by an ear, nose and throat specialist about it, to sort of, like, because she was so worried about it. I think she thought it was like a cancer type thing, but she had been told it wasn't. But I don't think she believed that. And she'd obviously got herself into a bit of a pickle internally about it. And so she never went out at night. So the last thing that happened, so she lived with my great uncle, and if she went out, she would go out in the evening. She wouldn't go out in the day, because she didn't want people talking to her. I mean, this is at a time also as well when, she was divorced, and obviously that was frowned upon anyway. So I think there was a part of that as well, still involved with that. And so she used to go out and walk in the evenings, when it was dark and people wouldn't be out and wouldn't see her. And the report says this. And then she went out that night. My great uncle last saw her when she went out for a walk at 8:30 on the 11th of August. And that was the last time he saw her alive.
Oh.
And the next thing was that she was found in the water, still fully clothed, still with her brown wool overcoat on and everything like that. And she was quite near the shore. So when you think about it, we can think that it must probably have only just happened when she had been found, because
Mm.
she would have been taken out. The tide would have taken her out otherwise, or in, whichever way. But yeah, so yeah, she was found by this passerby who was, like, passing by about, like, 1:30 in the morning, and just saw this figure in the sea, and then pulled her out, and then called the police and stuff, obviously, at that stage. But yeah, she had a post-mortem, and the post-mortem didn't find anything was wrong with her. So the thing that she thought she had, she didn't have. And so the thing that she was, like, kind of obviously a bit depressed about, she didn't have either. So it was kind of a bit like, so there's not a happy story at all by any
No,
stretch.
it's bad.
Um, but it's interesting to know. But it's good to know finally.
Did they not think that she could have slipped and fallen, or would she have had to have walked in to the water? It wasn't like she was
I
along a
think
wall
if
or
she
anything and fell in.
No, no, it didn't. It didn't. I think it doesn't say anything like that. And I think there would have been evidence of that when the postmortem happened. If she would
Yeah.
have had some sort of bruising or something like that if she had slipped and fell.
Yeah.
Think the subtext, even though it's
Sad.
not written, is that it is very much a we can't there was no because there was no note left, they can't say it was suicide because there was no intention behind it. But because there is, therefore, hence why it's drowning by open verdict, because you can't say you can make an assumption, but you can't actually know for sure whether that was her intention. Because why would you go in fully? It's not like there's a beach and there's pebbles to get down to the sea. So it's not like there are walls where you fell off and you'd get into the water, and then you could sort of like if a harbour wall or whatever. There wasn't anything. There's nothing like that in that area. Yeah,
Because she had her coat on.
yeah,
You wonder if it was, something that she decided just to do, like,
yeah,
impulsively. It doesn't sound like it was very deliberate, even though I know she had, like, mental health issues and was worried about her own physical health, but it sounds like it wasn't
yeah.
very planned.
Not planned, yeah. No, I think you're right. Yeah. No, I think you're right. I don't know. I mean, for all we know, she could have been rescuing a dog that had gone in the sea and she just raced in after. That's the sort of stupid thing I would do. Do you know what I mean? I mean, none of us know. I mean, the subtext of what they wrote in the report and what the article said suggests more. The subtext is veering towards it was self induced, but actually, you don't know. You don't know, do you? You know?
No.
Yeah, and you're right. I think it wasn't planned. It was a going out for a normal walk and then just making that decision potentially. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't know if she passed someone by and someone made a remark and you
No,
yeah, you don't know, do you?
you
It's
don't.
just
No,
so
you
oh,
don't.
it's so
Yeah,
sad, isn't it?
yeah. So,
How have you reacted to you talking to them about to you finding this out?
how's what
Your family reacted, how do they feel about it?
well, I've told my brother and sister, they know about it, but we haven't
Yeah.
really, as a family, we don't really talk about stuff like that. So that's as far as it's gone. But yeah,
But your granddad, who she was divorced from, was he still alive at this point?
he was still alive at that point, but obviously they were divorced.
Mm.
And yes, he didn't die, I don't think, until 1978 in the end.
Okay. And
But
did
then
he
they were, I don't think my mum ever spoke to him again. I don't think they even spoke at that point. Like they were quite,
well,
yeah, I think.
estranged? Yeah.
But then I'm trying to get that information out out from my mum, and she's not talking about that bit either. So it's just like they're an age where just don't want to talk about it, so we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is yeah, that's definitely like whenever I mean, the things I know about my granddad in the last sort of 10 years, because
Yes.
he's got older
Yes.
and talks to me about things. I mean, the stuff that we didn't know. I mean, we didn't even know he spoke Japanese until about
No,
5 years ago because he just didn't tell anyone.
no.
Just started talking Japanese to this lady in the restaurant, and we were like, "What?" He's like, "Oh, yeah, from my Navy days." You're like, "Oh, yeah."
Yeah,
Just happy
yeah,
to know some different language. Yeah, but it wasn't, wasn't talked about.
yeah,
War. Loads of people of that age, and I know lots of people who've talked about their grandparents or parents and have said, "Oh,
yeah,
yeah, well, they left this diary, and then we found out stuff after he died when we found out these records." And that's
yeah,
really sad. I think that's a very I don't know if it's the age across the age completely, but it's
yeah,
definitely British stiff upper lip. You
yeah,
just get
definitely.
on.
Yeah. Or like got more information and we want to find out more, and we expect to have more information as well, don't we?
Yeah. We look at it in a hindsight of an age where we know more about mental
Yeah.
health,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and things like that.
Yeah.
'Cause, I don't know if I've ever told you this. So Matt, my husband, his granddad, who I knew, he died about 7 or 8 years ago. He was amazing. So their surname is Reed. Obviously, that's my married name, but he was born Hill. He was born in the 20s, 1922, I think, and he was born Gordon Hill, and his father at the time he worked in a mental institution. So in the 20s, that's very different to what
Mm.
they're like now.
Mm.
He was, like a mental health nurse, which again is very unusual. Um, But when Gordon was about 10, so in the early 30s, his dad moved the family away and they changed their name to Hill, from Hill to Reed, sorry. So really, I should be Mrs. Hill. And nobody knew why. Nobody knows why they changed their name.
Still to this
And
day?
still to this day, we don't know why. But there were rumours that when Gordon was about 10, around this time it happened, that a lady came to the door with a pushchair and spoke to Gordon's dad. And he was called Henry. I think he was Henry Hill or Herbert Hill. It was like H Hill or something. And also, my son would be Harry Hill, wouldn't he? Which would be
Yeah,
brilliant.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So there's never been any sort of understanding. And obviously, when I
No.
first met Matt and about this, I tried to find out. So when they changed their name, it wasn't done by deed poll, and it wasn't like, because then you put it in the London Gazette and things like that. It was never done
Right,
legally.
right.
So Gordon, fast forward when he was, I think when he was 18-ish, he joined the RAF in the middle of the war. He couldn't join up earlier because he was a protected occupation. But he, towards the end of the war, on a bank holiday, he like slipped in and joined the RAF, and they couldn't find anything about his name, and that's when he realised it wasn't formally changed. So he had to then formally change it, and it was just prior to him getting married to Matt's
Wow.
granny. And so if he hadn't have done that, then their marriage would have been illegitimate because it would have been a
Yeah,
fake name and all this.
yeah.
So we can't find out a reason why. The only thing we've got is that there's this story from a memory from a 10-year-old that we don't know if that's true or not. Maybe there was an illegitimate child and then we put two and two together and probably made
Yeah.
five. Was that because he was doing something he shouldn't have been at one of these mental institutions with a patient or
Is
another
it?
member of staff, or what? We don't, like, there's so many things because of the facts we know. We then make millions of stories up. There's so many things that we think could have happened. And Gordon never knew, and he didn't really talk about it. You just don't know what the truth is. So you have all these facts and you don't know what is actually, you make all these stories because you fill in the gaps normally,
Yeah,
don't you, with things that you
yeah,
imagine could happen. And it could
yeah,
be true. It could be completely far from it. It might have been as simple as maybe he was threatened by someone and so
yeah,
he moved the family away, or maybe he had a mental health problem or
yeah,
something. But the story in the family is there a sibling out there
yeah.
of granddad? And he had to move, but then he didn't move particularly far away.
Oh,
So I don't
no,
know. But it's weird because to me, it's weird. I'm a true family historian, absolutely fascinated by it. And I don't even have a real surname. It's just a
no,
name that was plucked out of nowhere. And I find that so weird. So when people go, "Oh, what does your name mean?" and stuff like that, I go, well, it doesn't really matter because it's not part of the
no,
history of my husband's family.
no.
Just
Isn't that
it could have
interesting?
been much more interesting. I could have been like Mrs. Peacock or Mrs. Higginbotham or some, I don't
Yeah.
know why I went there, but yeah, you know what
Oh,
I
yeah,
mean.
you could have
It's
been.
not exciting, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
bizarre to me.
that is like, I love that though. This is where we need to become famous, and then they can do our "Who do you think you are"s and get right to the bottom of things like that if they can. But then they use the same sources as you're using now anyway, aren't they? So
You can see my wedding picture then. Oh, that'll be sweet. Yeah, but I think that's the thing. There's so many. You look at it through your own lens, and you're coloured by what you know about things. So you and the world, isn't it? So the stories that are out there that you make in your head about your family. And I mean, we
yeah,
can document things so much differently these days. So there's a
yeah,
more clear idea. But then you add in the projected social media, you only put on what you have. You don't put your
yeah,
heartaches on there. It's so crazy. And I just wish I could be a fly on the wall and know what was going on, why decisions were made, why people moved to
yeah.
places, why they took jobs at places. I guess that's why I like all the drama and things that you watch on TV about what could happen, and historical fiction where people reimagine stuff. And the what ifs, I always like all those
Yeah.
sort of histories as well.
I think it'd be fascinating to see, you know, equivalents in 30 years' time or whatever, you know, people who are looking at their family trees and stuff, but they've got the social media stuff because that's going to all be out there. But as you say, it doesn't tell you the full story at all. It just tells a curated, one-sided vision of what actually was happening at that time. So it's
Yeah, that.
interesting how these
But
people.
like you were just saying though, like if we were famous and we'd go on Who Do You Think You Are? I mean, some of the stuff that they find out is amazing, isn't it? Some of the things, and you think, and then there are other people where they don't find out as much, and they're focused on one particular story.
Oh, maybe
I don't know, but I can't get onto it. I'm sorry.
that's all right. Shall I keep going? Shall I?
It's just maybe just kind of just say Kelly's obviously left in a half.
And then we can, because you can't pause it. So I'm going to put you here.
Mhm.
Kelly is here.
I can't. Yeah, I just don't want to talk anymore. I don't know. I can't rejoin. I've tried to reload it, and I tried to do it on my phone as well. It won't let me in.
Dear viewers, we're having technical issues. So Kelly is, we're going to have to draw the podcast to an end, but it's been thoroughly delightful. And hopefully
It always is.
technical expertise will kick into force for next time.
I'll invest in a hard drive for my laptop because I don't know what's happened.
No.
Sorry. I know everyone was just absolutely enthralled with our talk. So
There we go. That's always next time. Next time, because you need to actually, you need to go because you need to go and you're going on a ghost walk this afternoon, which I am
yes.
very excited to hear about because I believe they're doing them around here as well. So we have to look at that. So you have to
Yes.
tell us about that next time. And then I'm off to Madrid next weekend. So can't wait to get back from that and tell you all about that as well. So until next
That's
time.
going to be amazing. Yes. Goodbye, lovely viewers.
I've just come back
I've just
on.
come back on. God, there's two of me. How horrendous.
Seamless. We're
Seamless. Yes.
seamless.
God. Sorry. Yes. I'm going on a ghost tour this evening in Wimborne. So I don't know who I'm going to see. Any messages for the other side?
No, well, if you see my grandmother, do let us know, you know. And actually, you will be in, isn't Wimborne Minster where Margaret Beaufort's parents are buried? So you never know who you might bump
Yes.
into.
Well, we'll talk about that next time because I did go into the church. I lived around here for over 20 years, never been in the Minster, the church, which is ridiculous. I've got people buried in the Wimborne who I'm related to. No, I haven't buried anyone there. I'm getting myself in all sorts of trouble.
Yeah.
Family connections.
Yeah.
But yes, so I did go in there a couple of weeks ago and I did take some photos. So we'll talk about that next time as well. Got about
We'll
that.
talk about next time. And then we
Yeah.
also, just as we're talking about Wimborne, we're very excited because we're going to go and see Queen Tracy Borman there with her tour in the autumn. So we booked front row tickets already and we're very excited about seeing her. So if anyone wants to see it, I think if you look on tracybormanlive.co.uk or something like that, you can find that. And she's doing a tour all about the Tudors. So it'd be very exciting.
Yes. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
family friendly. We're going to the Tivoli Theatre, which is brilliant in Wimborne. So yeah, I wonder, yeah, we're at the front because why wouldn't we be?
Oops.
And because she would
Yep.
expect us to be at the front, wouldn't she? Yes.
We're
But
her,
yeah,
we're her number one cheerleader, so she wouldn't expect us to be
yeah,
anywhere else. Yeah.
exactly, yes. And hopefully make lots of friends there because we always see. But yeah, have a lovely time in Spain. Very
Thank you.
jealous.
I will do. And I'll report back when I get back.
Yes, that would be lovely. Right.
Marvellous. Until next
Goodbye.
time. Bye.